This is actually going to be pretty dark. I'm not making any allegations. It's just really dark. And I want you guys, I don't usually do trigger warnings or anything like that, but like, this is kind of dark stuff. Make of that what you will. This has not been receiving a lot of attention. Brace yourselves. We're going to talk about Hassan. Far be it from me to be like a guy who like takes joy in canceling people, but I think this deserves attention. And before you jump to conclusions, why don't you hear me out, okay? So, first of all, I want you to look at this clip.
You ever had an escort? No shame, obviously, sex work is real work. I've had sex with not even escorts, but also like straight. I've gone to a brothel, Artemis, in Berlin, and had sex with the workers there. Yes. I don't hide it. I don't give a shit. Why would I?
I love how he calls them workers. You ever notice that? He calls them workers. He had sex with the workers. Now, if you ended it there, it's still disgusting. It's disgusting how a person just publicly says this, let alone does it in private, but to just brag about it and talks about workers, people who are prostituted, many of whom from countries like Eastern Europe, and are being prostituted out of economic desperation. It's fucking disgusting for someone to just say this. But they call it sex work. That's the new word. Sex work. There's no such thing as sex work. I'm a fucking grand master of Marxism, of Marxist theory. I challenge any fucking self-proclaimed Marxist to debate me about whether there can be such a thing as sex work and whether this produces value and whether this is a form of labor in the Marxist sense of the word. As a Marxist, I'm the grand master of Marxism on the fucking internet. If you see a guy who's running around my age and they're showing their face, I know more about Marxism than them. Let's put it that way, right? And whatever that means to you, I'm telling you, according to Marxism, there's no such thing as sex work. It's not a form of proletarian labor. It doesn't produce any value. It is not work in the sense of Marxist work. It's called prostitution, by the way. You don't need Marxism to know that either. You don't need Marxism, by the way, to know that it's a form of whitewashing of prostitution. Hope you guys don't plan on having daughters in this woke, politically correct country. Because when your daughter is young, some people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. And soon they're going to start asking the kids, oh, would you like to be a sex worker when you grow up? Because it's a normal job, right? It's just like any other job. So why not? It's just like any other job. And just in case people, I'm not even picking on them in general. I'm sick of people perverting Marxism. Like, for example, I'm not a fucking worker. This is not work. This is not labor in any meaningful Marxist sense. This is not labor. This is not producing value in the Marxist economic sense. Now, is it producing value in the sense of like people find value in it? Yeah, sure, clearly. But in the Marxist sense of the word, I'm not a fucking worker. I'm not a fucking proletarian. So you'd think it just ends there, right? And it's just like, that's the extent of it, and that's as bad as it gets. You'd think that's it, right? No. This is really what I wanted to draw attention to and just put out there to discuss. So he mentioned a place called Artemis. And he talked about how he slept with the workers there. The workers. Well, actually, Artemis has made the news before. Here's the news. It turns out the brothel, and it is a brothel Hassan went to so he could have sex with the quote-unquote workers, was raided in 2016 for human trafficking. On April 14, 2016, Artemis was raided by 900 police and customs officers investigating human trafficking and tax evasion. They obtained information that members of the Hells Angels forced some women to work in Artemis. One of these women had talked to police about her abusive pimp, a former professional football goalie who would be convicted of trafficking, coercion, and extortion and sentenced to 7 years in prison in October 2017. The tax evasion cross charges against Artemis were based on the allegation that the prostitutes working there were fraudulently classified as independent contractors rather than employees. There is a high probability that these so-called workers were being forced against their will. And that people in brothels, I need everyone PSA. So Hassan's a guy who's going to teach you that sex work is cool, guys. Sex work is fine. Sex work is cool. Yeah, sex work is it's all fine, man. They're workers. It's empowering. It's feminist. I'm going to be a streamer who tells you, if you visit a brothel or if you try to find sex workers, there is no way for you to guarantee that they're doing it voluntarily, by choice. Let me just tell you something. If it's not by choice, and 90% of the time globally, it's not by choice. By the way, the overwhelming majority of prostitutes do not do this work by choice. And the overwhelming majority of prostitutes around the world do it out of economic desperation and would choose any other job they could if it was available to them. They did studies on this, by the way. Let me show you. So this is in the Nordic countries, right? This is in the Nordic country. Oh, this is in the UK. So this is for the United Kingdom alone. And this is assuming that this study has like the highest, like this study covers it all. And this study's like really checking for like manipulations or anything by these pimps. This is in the United Kingdom, a first world country. We're not even talking about the global sex trade and prostitution globally. We're talking about the United Kingdom, okay? In the United Kingdom, 33% of prostitutes were looked after children. 50% started before they were 18. 50% were homeless. 50% were coerced. And 72% were abused as children. That's for the UK alone. Let's continue. Field the link between prostitution and sex trafficking. Field research in 9 countries. The vast majority of women in prostitution don't want to be there. Few seek it out or choose it, and most are desperate to leave it. A 2003 study, first published in the Scientific Journal of Trauma Practice, found that 89% of women in prostitution want to escape. And children are also trapped in prostitution. Field research in 9 countries found that 60 to 75% of women in prostitution were raped, 70 to 95% were assaulted, 68% met the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. There's so much research and study on this matter, and I think this was just in America. The worldwide statistics are insane. Global estimates of modern slavery. 42 million prostitutes in the world, here's where they live. 80% are female. 3/4 are between 13 and 25, and we don't even know the half of it, guys. This is all... I'll have to find the study, the one that talks about globally, right? But here's the point I want to make. Hassan's going to give you the message that this is okay and it's sex work. He's giving you this fairyland lie about the reality of prostitution. And the reason he's getting away with this lie is because many privileged women who live in the first world and come from upper middle class backgrounds and actually do choose to make this their quirky profession, those do exist. You know, and Hassan probably knows those people too. But they're giving you a false idea about what's going on the ground for the vast majority of people trapped in prostitution, not only around the world, but in America. They're giving you a false, idealized, completely fake, synthetic, made-up view of the actual, concrete, cold reality of prostitution. If you visit a prostitute, there is a very high chance that you are effectively raping someone. If they are there being coerced or being kept against their will or being violently bullied into it or living in desperation, I would even argue, you're not having consensual sex with someone based on some transaction. You are a rapist. You're a fucking rapist. And I bet if it gets discovered, if the truth comes out and they're able to escape, you will be met with the full force of the law as a rapist. And you would fucking deserve it, you motherfucker. I will never have a community that harbors people like Hassan. If I find out anyone in my community goes and visits brothels, you're fucking banned for life. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. You can have all the views on sex you want when it comes to consensual sex between adults. We don't do this. Infrared men don't participate in human trafficking. The men of infrared do not buy sex. Period. The men of infrared do not buy sex. There are no Hassans in our community. We will never have a Hassan in our community. Now let me show you some quotes by real-life Marxists to back this up. Because there's a lot of American so-called Marxists going around and spreading the idea that communism and Marxism is pro-prostitution. Well, let's look what the authorities have had to say. Let's look at Lenin's companion, Krupskaya, who is a very prominent authority within the Bolshevik party. A very powerful voice and figure within the party. Let's see what she had to say. Bourgeois professors are not ashamed to declare in print that prostitutes are not slaves, that they voluntarily chose this road. This is disgusting hypocrisy, which claims that nothing prevents a worker from leaving a factory where it is impossible to breathe from dust, poisonous fumes, and the heat. He voluntarily stays to work on it, voluntarily works 16 to 18 hours. So what she's saying is, these bourgeois professors who are out saying, oh, it's their choice to be prostitutes. They're not enslaved. Saying they're just as bad as the ones who are apologizing for these horrific work conditions where workers are breathing in dust, poisonous fumes, heat, working 16 to 18 hours, and it's the same thing. These are our authorities, by the way. And these American Marxists are trying to lie to us and gaslight us about what's always been the bottom line for the communist tradition with a capital C. By the way, if any of you are in the Communist Party USA, you must remain vigilant, you must stand strong, and you must make sure, this is your sacred duty, I'm telling you. You must make sure that these sex work, pro-prostitution Marxists never, ever have a place in the Communist Party. It's very important. Let's continue. Alexandra Kollontai. What did she have to say about it? Now, Kollontai was, I forgot what position she was in. She was a very prominent female figure in the Bolshevik Party. Again, after the Soviet government took power, she oversaw women's affairs, and she was a kind of feminist, right? Communist feminist. She has an article called Prostitution and Ways of Fighting It. The question of prostitution is a difficult and thorny subject in Soviet Russia. The sinister legacy affects the physical and moral health of the working people. We are still far from being rid of this evil. She calls it an evil, and she says her goal is to be rid of the evil. Prostitution continues to exist and threatens the feeling of solidarity and comradeship between working men and women and members of the Workers' Republic. These are the authorities. These are the relevant authorities. Just like how the American Marxists are making shit up about land back and trying to distort our history, they're doing the same thing when it comes to so-called sex work. What communist state allowed prostitution? Every single communist state that's ever existed banned prostitution. Every single one. Not only did they ban it, they eradicated it. There was no prostitution in the Soviet Union, no prostitution in China. Now, it came back after they opened up in China, their markets, but it was still fought against vehemently by the government to eradicate. Read this. We're not going to read it all on stream, but I'm just trying to show you how they're lying and trying to gaslight us about what the authorities have said on this matter. If you see Hassan operating the Communist Party, what would you do? I would move to get him expelled. This behavior is worthy of expulsion from a Communist Party. A person who visits a brothel cannot be a member of a Communist Party. Period. You can't have Communist Party members running around who visit brothels. That's fucking unheard of. That's fucking unheard of anywhere in the world. You don't have Communist Party members running around visiting fucking brothels. And visiting brothels, I might add, that are alleged and are even proven, according to testimonies, to have people working there against their will. Now, I'm not making an accusation because I just don't fucking know, but it sounds to me like there was a chance that Hassan was dealing with people, so to speak, who were there against their will. In other words, Hassan was with workers who did not choose to be there and therefore did not choose to be with him. I'm not saying that's what happened. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying it's a possibility because that's something that is proven to have happened in the past at Artemis. How do you know it's eradicated? Is it eradicated at Artemis now? When Hassan went? You don't fucking know these things. And the lesson I'm trying to draw is not that I'm trying to accuse Hassan of anything, because I don't know, right? I want you all to know that when you go to a fucking brothel and you hire the services of a sex worker and you buy sex, there is no, you're not having a free and equal transaction between equals. You're not. Let me tell you why. There are very few women in this world who will actually agree as anything but the last resort to have sex with you for money. That's something you do when you're so fucking desperate you have no choice. Now listen, I'm not trying to police people's relationships. You think Castro wasn't having sex with prostitutes? He wasn't. He plainly wasn't. I'm not trying to police how people have relationships. I'm not trying to police how people interact. Interact however goddamn you want to, right? But the line should be crossed for the infrared community and for communists, because I want to raise awareness about this, and I want to fight this trend of no buying sex. A man in this community cannot buy sex, because as this case proved, Rubenstein proved, this brothel that he went to was raided in 2016 for human trafficking. So while it's not illegal to go to that brothel, we're making it illegal in our community. We're not standing for that. And that's what makes us different from DGG. That's what makes us different from Hassan's community and the rest of them.
Pigeon donated $5. How long sex work has
prostitution, not sex work.
Women, but I feel it's a trope in Western movies as well. Upclass women exploring their sexuality or something by doing sex work.
By doing prostitution. We're not using the word sex work anymore. You need to guys, we cleanse words in our politically correct culture, and you are starting to get gaslighted into using this phrase, sex work. The word is prostitution, by the way. Stop trying to normalize this shit. Call it what it is, prostitution. Yeah, I know. I've been on Twitter, dude. I've been on Twitter where everyone always says, oh, it's my choice. I don't feel exploited at all. I just choose to do it freely. You think I buy that? You think I give a fuck about any of that and I buy into that? That's not the reality on the ground. That's the reality on Twitter, where you live in make-believe fantasy land. That's not the reality on the ground. How the hell is the place still up if it got raided? Because Western German feminists insist that it stay up, because feminism became a thing where it's just apparently prostitution is very empowering for women. So they fight for prostitution. And I'm not joking about that, by the way. Yeah, Hassan calls every other work wage slavery. But going to a fucking brothel is supporting sex workers. You're supporting them by giving them money. Let me address this business. I don't care how many bridges I burn. I'm going to address this business of prostitution and all this kind of stuff. Support sex workers by giving them money. Well, if they're privileged, if the argument is basically just, oh, well, support sex workers by giving them money and you're supporting them. Well, if they don't need the money and it's just like because they just want to get rich, why is a sex worker better than a steel worker? Like, why do they deserve that? They don't fucking deserve that. They don't deserve more support than anyone else. They should get a fucking real job. You're not owing them any charity, so get a real job. But if they do need it to feed their kids or they're in a state of economic desperation, then you can still help them. If you want to do charity, you can still help them without taking advantage of them sexually. Why do you need to receive something in return? Because sex positivity is the crux of our position, is what they say. You know, all over Twitch, political Twitch, that's like the norm now. Like, oh yeah, sex positivity. Listen, I am sex negative. You want to know why? Let me tell you why. I believe in hypocrisy. I believe in the power of hypocrisy. You know what that means? It means we are all sexual beings. It's something you can't control. It's something you don't fucking go to the extreme and just shut down all barriers and open all the doors. Be a hypocrite. That's fine. Be a hypocrite behind closed doors. That's great. But just recognize it is a shameful thing. Of course it's a fucking shameful thing. If it's not a shameful thing, why wouldn't you be ashamed to be sexual in front of your mother? Would you be okay with, like, let's say you're spitting game with a woman. Would you be ashamed to do that in front of your mom? Yes, you would. I promise you would. And you know what? That's good, because that's human. That's good and human. And, I'm sick of this thing like, oh, sex is positive. It's a good thing. It's not a fucking good thing. And by the way, by calling it a good thing and a positive thing, you're fucking ruining it. You're making me want to never, ever, ever get my fucking dick wet again. Because that's just such an ugly, disgusting thing to say. Oh, let's be positive. I don't want to fucking be positive about it. It's valid. I don't want your validation. I don't want your validation. That's the thing. When I'm doing 5-minute doggy with big booty bitches, I'm spiting you. It's to spite you. What's positive about people giving in to their passions and just taking that risk? Maybe there's something poetic about it, but it's not positive. It's not like a risk-free, safe thing. It's not. It's not a safe thing in the sense of like, there's a high chance you're going to get your feelings hurt. There's a high chance, it's not going to turn out well for you emotionally. All of those things are there, and that's what makes it so fucking exciting. And that's what makes it sex. Sex is not wholesome. The word sex literally comes, you know what sex means? You know the etymology of sex, right? Sex means denoting two. For something to be sexed means it's divided. That's what it means for something to be sexed. Like it's a mathematical word, sexed, right? You sect something into two. That's literally the opposite of wholesome. Wholesome means one, and it's just one wholesome endeavor. That's the opposite of sex. That's not what sex is. So this whole sex positivity thing is fucking disgusting. And you wanna know, guys, something else? There's nothing more ugly and off-putting and less sexy than sex positivity. Sex positivity is just not sexy. Those sex-positive people don't have good sex either. They lie about having good sex on Twitter and having this great sex life, and they don't. They have a miserable, horrible sex life where the guy can't get it up, and it just devolves in this fucking jellyfish fest where there's nothing remotely erotic about it anymore. You know what's fucking erotic? What's erotic is when a conservative girl accidentally just starts to give in to the temptation. That's fucking erotic. That's fucking erotic. You wanna know what's fucking erotic? When two people do not plan on having any sex and they just do. That's like erotic, right? That's like a fucking romance novel. You want to know what's not erotic? When someone's like, sex is great and we should be positive. Sex is positive. Let's be happy about sex. Let's be happy. Go lucky. It's a good thing and it's healthy. It's healthy and good for you. Hi, would you like to have sex with me? Imagine Vosh. Would you like to have sex with me? Astaghfirullah! Astaghfirullah! Hi, would you like to have sexy time with me? How is that not more assault? That's a form of assault. That's a form of assault. That's a form of mental assault, sexual assault even. I think it should be just as illegal as rape. It should be just as illegal as rape. If you go up to a girl that you don't know and you say that, you should go to prison for life. If a woman asked me that, I would say, Tfoya alaikum. You, your parents, your grandparents, your whole ancestors, leave my presence. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. The fact that it's being promoted among the Twitch lefties It disgusts me beyond reproach. I'm so disgusted. I'm so disgusted. And to think that Merrick tried to cancel Jackson for what he said when she is out here with that attitude, saying that shit, and friends with the people saying that shit. We live in a topsy-turvy, upside-down world where the most evil, disgusting people get away with doing whatever the fuck they want, and the good people get canceled and demonized for being good people. Yeah, Merrick proposed something called sexual mutual aid. You guys want to know what sexual mutual aid is? It's when, as a form of solidarity between comrades, you know, if you have a loser guy, go give him some pussy. Go give him some pussy. It's sexual mutual aid, right? Go give him some pussy. It's your duty. It's mutual aid. It's wholesome. It's solidarity. It's wholesome. Tfoya alaikum, tfoya alaikum. Tfoya alaikum. Tfoya alaikum. Ya aybu shom haram alaikum. This is the left we have in America. Ya aybu shom alaikum. You imagine your sister wants to get involved in politics. She joins a party. What if she joined the Communist Party and Merrick was allowed in the Communist Party? She joins the Communist Party and some fat slob or some disgusting person, some fat slob comes and tells her to do sexual mutual aid. What will you do? What will you do? Are you going to let the Communist Party become that? We need the Communist Party, join the Communist Party, secure it so that these people, we can isolate them. We need to turn the Communist Party into a North Korea, isolated from all these people. People like Merrick should never ever be allowed in. Go secure that party, make sure they never ever are allowed inside. If that's left, I'm right. Yeah, sure. If being a right winger means with every fiber of your being you reject that, I'm a right winger, ultra far right person, 100%. But I don't believe that's the left. I don't believe that's the left. I choose not to believe that is. Who is to blame for this gross sexual openness? I don't know. I don't know who to blame. The media. The media, Disney, I don't know what the fuck it is. They gave these people these ideas. Maybe this is what it is. Maybe people spontaneously, every human instinct they have in their stomach, they isolate and they say, I'm going to reject this. They feel the human instinct in their stomach, right? And they go, oh, now it makes me feel queasy. I have to elevate it. It comes from within. They reject their own human instinct. These people hate their own humanity. Also, it was the 60s and all that dumb shit, but these are people who hate their own humanity. 100%. They're trying to make being human optional. Yeah. 100%. You want to know how we're going to end up if we keep listening to these people? Hey, everyone! It's me! I am a computer. I'm a computer-y guy. Everything made out of numbers and wires. Humans don't know the joys of true leftism. True leftism, which means the destruction of humanity. All right, we're putting that away.